The Ashford estate sat at the edge of town, a sprawling mansion of grey stone and black iron gates. Locals whispered about it. Most avoided it after sunset. They said the walls had memories, dark, twisted memories. It all began with Jonathan Ashford, a man of wealth, a man of secrets. He married young. His first wife, Eleanor, vanished. No one knew how. No one wanted to speak her name aloud. The second wife arrived with hope, Lydia. She laughed like sunlight. But in the Ashford Mansion, sunlight never lasted long. Within months, Lydia's laughter faded. She wandered the halls at night, talking to shadows, saying things that didn't make sense. Neighbors reported screams. The estate's windows glowed with flickering candlelight, even on stormless nights. Jonathan claimed it was the wind, but whispers traveled faster than wind. By the third marriage, rumors had grown. Some said the mansion itself was alive. Others claimed Jonathan had made a dark pact, a deal that cost more than money. And the wives, they were the price. Margaret came next. Bright eyes, determined. She believed she could save the family. Perhaps she could. But Ashford shadows have a way of stretching far. One evening, Margaret's reflection stayed in the mirror longer than her body did. And the next morning, she was gone. The servants swore they heard whispers in her room, words that chilled the blood. Join us, join us. By the time the fourth wife arrived, the mansion had a reputation. Few dared cross its gates. The fourth wife, Agnes, tried to bring joy. She filled rooms with flowers, tried to fill empty halls with music. It didn't help. Music twisted in the corners. Flowers wilted overnight. And Agnes, she started speaking to Jonathan in a voice no one else could hear. The townsfolk said she had gone mad. But madness is just another word for seeing too much. Jonathan remained calm. Too calm, as if the mansion obeyed him. As if the walls whispered secrets only he could understand. Every night he walked the halls alone. The servants never followed. The children, when they came, never stayed. And then came the fifth wife. The one who dared to ask questions. The one who wanted to know the truth. The one who stepped into the attic, where the shadows gathered. Where the old Ashford journals were hidden. And where the mansion's dark heart beat strongest. She found letters. Letters stained with something dark. Words that made no sense. Until she read them aloud. And then the candles flickered. The floorboards creaked. A chill wrapped around her like a snake. She screamed. But no one came, because by the time anyone arrived, it was too late. The Ashford Mansion had claimed another, and the story was just beginning. If you want to know the terrifying secrets of the Ashford family, stay tuned for Hit, like if you felt the chill. Comment your theory about the mansion, and don't forget to subscribe. The attic smelled of dust and decay. Cobwebs hung like veils over forgotten furniture. The fifth wife, Isabella, shivered. Every step she took echoed like a warning. She found the journals, leather-bound, cracked with age. The handwriting inside was jagged, urgent, and sometimes almost pleading. Jonathan Ashford's voice haunted the pages. He wrote of power, of bloodlines, of a family curse no one could escape. Each wife a sacrifice, each disappearance a ritual. The shadows in the corners seemed to twitch. The room grew colder. Her breath fogged in the air. Then she heard it, a soft whisper. Isabella. It sounded like her name, but deeper, older, full of pain. She turned. Nothing, just shadows. But the shadows weren't empty. They moved, slowly, almost watching. The journals spoke of an old room, hidden beneath the mansion, where the Ashford ancestors had performed ceremonies, where the family's dark power had grown. Isabella realized this was no ordinary house. This was a prison, a trap. She climbed down from the attic. The mansion groaned. The walls shifted as if alive. The servants whispered behind closed doors. But no one dared stop her. They knew better. In the hidden room, the air was thick, thicker than any ordinary air. Candles burned on stone ledges, though no match had been struck. Symbols carved into the floor glimmered faintly. The smell, iron, blood, old blood. Isabella stepped closer. The floorboards creaked. Then she noticed it. A small door in the corner, barely visible. Her heart pounded. She reached for the handle, and the room changed. The walls seemed to breathe. The shadows stretched. A voice hissed from every corner. You shouldn't be here." Isabella opened the door. Inside, another room, empty, except for a single mirror, tall, grand, reflecting, not her face, but the faces of the lost wives, Eleanor, Lydia, Margaret, Agnes. They stared back, silent, eyes hollow, mouths opening and closing, whispering things she couldn't hear. Suddenly, the mirror cracked. A hand reached out, cold, wet, clutching her arm. She screamed. The whispers grew louder, filling the room, filling her mind. "You will join us forever." Isabella fought, tried to pull away. The hand tightened, and then she saw him. Jonathan Ashford, standing behind the mirror, his eyes black as midnight. A smile curved on his lips, and for the first time, she understood the mansion fed on them. The wives, the weak, the curious, all trapped inside its walls. Jonathan, he was only the keeper. The mansion, the real master. She tore herself free, ran through the hallways, the portraits on the walls. Their eyes followed her. The floorboards moaned beneath her feet. The mansion, alive, hungry. Outside, the moon hung low, silver light on black gates. She stopped, gasping. She had escaped. For now, but the mansion. It had seen her. It would wait, and somewhere deep inside, Jonathan Ashford watched, patient, knowing the story was far from over. The secrets of the Ashford family were darker than anyone could imagine. And Isabella? She had only scratched the surface. If you felt the chill and want to see what horrors await Isabella next, don't miss Hit, like if this gave you goosebumps. Comment your theory about the mansion's dark power, and make sure to subscribe so you're first to uncover the Ashford secrets. The mansion never slept. Walls whispered, floors groaned, and the air smelled of secrets. Isabella couldn't stop thinking about the mirror. The faces of the lost wives haunted her. Eleanor, Lydia, Margaret, Agnes, all trapped, all waiting, determined she returned. The front gates groaned open. No one was around. The wind carried a voice, soft, pleading. "Help us!" She descended into the hidden room again. The journals lay open as if waiting. She read aloud the words carved centuries ago, names, dates, rituals, each entry darker than the last. Each entry tied the Ashford bloodline to something unnatural. Jonathan Ashford's ancestors had made a pact with shadows, with creatures older than the mansion itself. They promised power, wealth, and immortality. But the price was the sanity, life, and souls of the women who married into the family. Isabella's hands shook. The room pulsed. The walls seemed to close in. The shadows. They moved toward her. She whispered a prayer she didn't believe in. Then she heard footsteps, soft, echoing. Jonathan's footsteps, but different, slower, purposeful, filled with a calm that terrified her. "You shouldn't meddle," he said, his voice like silk over steel. "You cannot change what has been set in motion for centuries." Isabella swallowed fear. "I won't let you take another wife," she said. Her voice quivered, but her eyes burned. Jonathan smiled, a cruel, knowing smile. "The mansion chooses," he whispered. "Not I." The candles flickered violently. Shadows stretched like living fingers. The walls themselves seemed to lean closer. Isabella felt something brush her arm, cold, wet, almost alive, then a sound, a wail. Not one voice, many, a chorus of suffering. The wives, calling her, warning her. Isabella stumbled backward. The journals fell to the floor. A gust of wind turned pages rapidly. The final entry glowed faintly. Words burned into her mind. To break the curse, one must face the heart of the mansion and confront the darkness that feeds it. Her heart raced. The mansion, it wasn't just haunted. It was alive, hungry, and it had fed on the Ashford family's wives for generations. She realized the truth. Jonathan was the keeper. But the mansion was the real evil. And now it had noticed her. It would not let her leave easily. The floor beneath her trembled. Walls cracked. Shadows poured from the corners. Whispers turned into screams. The house demanded tribute. It demanded her. She ran, through hallways that twisted unnaturally, through rooms that weren't there before, through doors that led nowhere. And everywhere, somewhere deep within, she heard it. The heart of the mansion, beating, dark, powerful, and calling her name. Isabella knew one thing. If she wanted to survive, she would have to confront it, face the mansion's darkness, and the centuries of Ashford evil that lived inside it. But could a single person defeat a curse older than the town itself? The mansion waited, patient, knowing the story was far from over. If you want to see Isabella take the next step into the mansion's horrifying heart, don't miss Hit Like If the Chills Are Real. Comment your theory about the mansion's curse and subscribe. The mansion's heart pulsed like a living creature. Walls shifted, floors groaned, the shadows, they whispered her name. Isabella descended deeper than ever before. Stairs that weren't there before appeared. Hallways twisted unnaturally. Time itself seemed to stretch. Every step echoed in her bones. The hidden chamber awaited. Stone walls carved with centuries-old symbols. Candles burned without flame. A black mist swirled around the room. And in the center, the mansion's heart, it was massive, pulsing, almost human. A dark, beating mass of shadows and whispers. The screams of the lost wives echoed within it. It was alive. It was hungry. Jonathan appeared, as if summoned by the mansion itself. Eyes black as midnight. A smile that chilled her blood. "You've come far," he said, "but you can't leave. The mansion chooses." Isabella's hands shook, but her voice was firm. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of this house." The mansion roared. Shadows surged. Whispers became screams. They reached into her mind. Memories twisted. Visions of the lost wives. Their pain. Their terror. Their hatred. "You cannot win," Jonathan hissed. "But I can try," Isabella said. She stepped closer to the heart. The mist coiled around her, cold, wet, alive. It tried to push her back. To claim her, she held up the journals. The words she had read aloud before. She read the final passage again, louder, clearer, determined. To break the curse, one must face the heart. And refuse to yield, the mansion shrieked. Shadows lunged. Candles exploded into black smoke. Walls shook violently. But Isabella didn't move. She stood firm. The faces of the lost wives appeared in the shadows. Silent at first, then they reached for her. Not to harm her, but to guide her, to lend her strength. Isabella realized the truth. The mansion fed on fear, on despair, on submission. It thrived because Jonathan let it, because the wives allowed themselves to be consumed. She clenched her fists. She refused to yield. She refused to scream. She refused to run. And then the impossible happened. The mansion trembled. The heart faltered. The shadows screamed. Jonathan's calm smile vanished. Fear flickered in his eyes. With one final defiant shout, Isabella pressed the journals to the beating heart. The black mist recoiled. Screams echoed. The room shook violently. And then silence. The mansion fell still. Walls no longer moved. Shadows faded. The heart cracked. A final pulse. And then nothing. Jonathan Ashford collapsed. The darkness around him dissipated. The mansion was quiet. For the first time in centuries, Isabella stood trembling, exhausted but victorious. The curse broken. The lost wives freed. But as she looked around, she noticed something. The mansion still stood, silent, watching, patient. Evil never truly dies. If you want to see the final part, where the aftermath of Isabella's confrontation is revealed, and the Ashford Mansion's final secrets are uncovered, hit like if this gave you goosebumps. Comment your thoughts. Would you face the mansion? And subscribe to see the terrifying conclusion of the Ashford curse. The mansion was quiet. Too quiet. Even the wind seemed afraid to enter. Isabella walked through the halls. The portraits stared, but their eyes no longer followed her. The air no longer whispered. She reached the main hall. Sunlight pierced through the dusty windows. For the first time, the mansion felt normal, almost alive in a kind way. Jonathan Ashford lay on the floor, motionless but not dead. The darkness around him had vanished. The curse broken. She approached him. His eyes opened, confused, frightened, the arrogance gone. You survived," he whispered. Isabella nodded. "Yes, because I refused to yield. Because I refused to be afraid, Jonathan shivered. The mansion had abandoned him. For centuries, he had been protected by its darkness. But now, it had no reason to obey. The lost wives appeared. Translucent, shimmering in soft light, Eleanor, Lydia, Margaret, Agnes, and even those long forgotten. They smiled. No words, only gratitude. And then, slowly, they faded. Free at last, Isabella wandered through the estate. Rooms that had been locked for decades opened. Secrets revealed themselves. Treasures of the Ashford family, untouched by fear or greed. She paused at the mirror, the one that had shown the lost wives. Her reflection was clear, unharmed, alive. The mansion seemed smaller now, less imposing, almost human. It had survived, but it had changed. No longer a predator, no longer a prison, yet Isabella knew the truth. Evil never truly dies. The mansion had been beaten, but it would always wait, patient, silent, for the next soul foolish enough to enter. She left the estate. The gates creaked closed behind her. The townspeople watched in awe and fear. Stories of the Ashford Mansion would continue. But the curse was broken. Isabella returned to her life, but the memories lingered. The whispers, the faces, the heartbeat of the mansion, and sometimes, at night, she could still hear it. A faint, soft pulse, waiting, watching. The Ashford family's sinister legacy was over. But the mansion, it remained. A monument to darkness, a warning to the curious, and a challenge to the brave. If you survived this chilling tale and want to see the final part, where we uncover the mansion's ultimate secret and the shocking twist of the Ashford family, hit like if your heart is still racing. Comment your thoughts. Would you dare enter the Ashford Mansion? And subscribe so you don't miss the terrifying conclusion. Isabella couldn't shake the feeling that something lingered. The mansion was quiet. Too quiet? Even the wind seemed hesitant to pass through the gates. She returned one last time, not out of fear. Curiosity. The mansion had secrets yet to reveal. The main hall stretched before her. Sunlight cut through broken windows, dust dancing in golden beams. But there was something different, something unseen, a chill that had nothing to do with the air. She descended the hidden stairs. The attic, the place where it all began, where the mirror had shown the lost wives, and the journals had whispered truths too terrible to imagine. Then she saw it, a small hidden compartment in the floor. She hadn't noticed it before. Inside, an old chest, heavy, bound with black iron. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside, letters from centuries ago. Not from Jonathan, from someone older. Someone who had started the curse. The handwriting was jagged, almost frantic. And the words, horrifying. The mansion lives, it feeds, but it chooses its keeper. The bloodline will continue the legacy. Beware the final heir. Isabella froze. A heartbeat echoed in the chest. Not hers, the mansion. Alive, watching, waiting. Suddenly a shadow moved. Not dark, not black, red, glowing. It took form. A figure tall, elegant, familiar. Jonathan stepped forward, but not as the man she knew, eyes glowing with a strange fire. The mansion had transformed him, made him something more, something bound to its dark heart. You broke the curse, he said. Yet the mansion demands a new keeper. It chooses. It always chooses. Isabella understood. The Ashford family curse wasn't just the wives. It wasn't Jonathan. It was the mansion itself. The mansion's evil could never die. The shadows around her pulsed. The heartbeat grew louder. The walls stretched. The mansion waited, but Isabella, she was clever. She held the journals. She whispered the words one last time. I refuse, I refuse, I refuse. The mansion roared. Walls shook violently. The red glow flickered. Jonathan screamed. The shadows recoiled. And then, silence. The mansion fell still. No heartbeat, no whispers, no darkness. Isabella stepped outside. The gates swung open. The estate seemed smaller now, less threatening. The wind carried a calmness. She realized the ultimate truth. The mansion's evil could never be destroyed, only postponed. And the Ashford legacy would always linger. But for now, The mansion would sleep, and she had survived. The town would tell stories of Isabella, of the wives, of the mansion's dark heartbeat. And someday, someone else might enter, curious, bold, foolish. The Ashford family's macabre history was over. But the mansion's sinister tale would continue. If this chilling saga gave you goosebumps, make sure to like. Comment who you think will enter the mansion next, and subscribe to uncover more terrifying stories like this.